All right, let's bring in Congressman Tom Reed, Republican of the state of New York. He joins us now. He is the co-chair of the Problem Solvers Caucus. Congressman Reed, we're not going to wake up tomorrow to a showdown, are we? I mean, President Trump, he certainly loves a show. Excuse me, I said a shutdown. The president loves a show, but at the end of the day, we're going to see this thing go through, won't we?
I do believe we will. I believe the Senate will take action here. They have a proposal in front of them that, in my opinion, is reasonable. 30 days of government funding for 6 years' worth of children's health insurance. I mean, to me, that is something that is an easy compromise to do, and I would hope the Senate takes that up and gets this taken care of and gets the drama out of the way.
Congressman, the last shutdown, look, we don't want to overstate or understate what they do, but we have a strong economy, we have a good market, we have low unemployment, we've got GDP growth that the president likes to talk about that's doing well. Yesterday I was saying to Stephanie that it's kind of like having a runner who's just gained speed and then you put your foot out and trip them. What are you worried about the economic effect of a shutdown?
Well, any type of instability out of Washington obviously is not good for our market. It's not good for our economy. And fundamentally, it's not good for the American people. And so my hope is here is a deep breath overnight. The Senate does what it needs to do. We get through the next 30 days, and then we take on the bigger issues, and we continue to move the ball forward on issues of the day.
But is it not in the president's hands? Because whether we're talking about Alexander Murray or Chip or a DACA compromise, you've got enough Republicans and Democrats in the middle who can kind of make this thing happen. The deals are there. It's the president and the extremes that are holding it up. Can't the president change this?
Well, I think that obviously the president can do a great deal, and I think that's what you're seeing. The president has convened multiple groups. He's brought folks over to the White House. It just takes a little bit more time. That's why what we did today or yesterday in the House in regards to health insurance for kids for 6 years, 30 days of government funding, that's a reasonable compromise. Let's get the kids out of the way. Let's make sure that we're focusing on the bigger issues, and we have that opportunity to do it over the next 30 days.
How do we do that? When you say let's get the kids out of the way, we talk about CHIP all the time here. We just talked about nutritional assistance. How do you deal with that? How do you make this, how do you isolate this into just a continuing resolution on an appropriations measure? Because as Stephanie and I like to point out, according to the Constitution, you guys at Congress only have one constitutional responsibility, and it is to make appropriations.
You're absolutely right, and that's a bigger conversation in regards to making sure we don't have to use leverage points like a continuing resolution and do our job, and I'm all for it. And you know we're working across the aisle, and I think from a bottom-up approach, the message is being delivered to the leadership. We're sick and tired of this gridlock, too. We join the American people, and hopefully that's where we end up as we go through the government of extremism that we're seeing on display over the last few years and which represented, I think, today.
Congressman, we go back and forth a lot, and you often say, let's look at the big picture, the broader picture, all the great things that are happening with the economy. And I often get caught up because there are so many little issues where it doesn't seem like the administration is putting country first. And McClatchy just put out a report. Here we are, 1 year in. 5 of the president's top staffers still have final approval that they've got their financial disclosures in, and I mean the financial disclosures that show that they are not personally benefiting from working in the White House. So here we are 1 year in, and whether we're talking about that or a real estate development project in India offering a trip to the United States to meet Don Jr., when is that going to get cleared up?
Well, I hope soon, but with all due respect, I would look at the issues that are impacting American people. Whether a bureaucrat files a financial disclosure document doesn't impact people. So when you look at tax reform and you're seeing wages, when you see wages going up on tax reform, when you see bonuses going out, those are impacting people on a day-to-day basis, and that's the results I choose to focus on.
Congressman, it goes to the argument of trust. And if you say you're going to put country first, then we will put our trust in your hands. And there are so many times when that's simply not the case, sir.
Well, I appreciate that. And that's why they do need to fill out the forms. They need to get those taken care of and go through that process. I totally agree with you. But I don't want to get bogged down into that issue when we're talking about bigger issues like tax reform, delivering those tangible results of real money that people keep in their pocket, and the wage increases and the bonuses that we're seeing happen across the country long-term. Amazon, billions of dollars invested in America. That's a huge opportunity for people.
We should point out that wage increases have severely lagged if you compare. You can't possibly compare the growth in the stock market to wage increases. I mean, wage increases have just chugged along.
Well, I'm talking about, Stephanie, I'm talking about like the banks in the Midwest that have raised their corporate minimum wage to $15 an hour. I'm talking about M&T Bank in our backyard that is doing the same thing. We're seeing this benefit of tax reform. That's impacting people on a day-to-day basis. That's what we come to D.C. to do.
Congressman, what happens tomorrow if there's a shutdown and constituents start calling you? Is there a role that you have to play in order to try and undo it? I mean, if we get to the inevitable in 13 hours and there is a shutdown, and I don't see any Senate scheduled, and it doesn't look like they've got the votes at the moment. So at this moment, if I were a betting man, I'd bet that there's going to be a shutdown. What happens then? Once you're in the shutdown, what can you do to undo it?
Well, you know, Plan A, I think we're going to avoid that. Plan B, though, is something I always prepare for. Plan C's, and we'll have the staff, we'll respond to constituents, and we're going to be a voice to say, you know what, let's solve this problem. And we'll send the messages that need to be sent to our leadership as well as to the senators to say, sit down, work it out. It's time to put people first and get this done, and we're part of that effort here in Washington.
Congressman